Chapter 2, 2 years old. Morning came to the Cole apartment through thin curtains the color of weak tea. It was a small place, 2 bedrooms on the second floor of a tired building in a tired part of Seattle, the kind of building where you could hear your neighbor's television through the wall and smell their dinner through the floor. Ethan had grown up here. In his first life, he had remembered it only as a blur of cramped rooms and the particular green of the kitchen linoleum. Now he lay in his crib and cataloged every crack in the ceiling with the desperate precision of a man memorizing a face he is about to lose. He had not slept. He was not sure a mind like his could sleep in a body like this. The body had slept, it had shut down somewhere before dawn, dragging him under with it. But Ethan himself had simply waited out the dark, thinking, until the tea-colored light came. Then the day began, and the day was an education in humiliation. A 2-year-old does not own his own time. He does not own his own body. Ethan was lifted, carried, stripped, wiped, and dressed by hands that meant nothing but love and left him no dignity at all. He was set in a high chair, and a spoon was aimed at his mouth. Some ancient, infuriating reflex made the small body turn its head away, and the spoon chased it, and his mother laughed her young, unbroken laugh, and a warm, humiliated heat climbed up the back of Ethan's neck. I built houses, some part of him wanted to say. I filed taxes. I buried you. Let me hold the spoon. He held still. He opened his mouth. He let her feed him. This, he understood already, was the first rule, and it had nothing to do with spoons. The danger was being seen. Ethan worked it out over that first long, endless morning, the way he had once worked out a difficult job, slowly in his head, turning it over from every side. A child who was merely bright was a blessing. A child who was wrong, who watched the room with an adult still, measuring eyes, who flinched from the wrong things and understood the wrong words, that child frightened people. And frightened people talked. Doctors, teachers, neighbors leaning over the stroller to coo, freezing when the baby looked back at them like a man. He could not afford to be wrong. Not because he feared a doctor's questions, let them ask, but because wrong was a kind of light and Ethan needed the dark. Everything he meant to do over the next 5 years, every careful nudge against the great wet weight of fate, depended on no one ever once looking at Ethan Cole and thinking, that boy knows something he should not. So he practiced. He practiced not understanding. When his mother said a word, he made the small face go blank and round before he let it light up, the way a real toddler's would, half a beat behind. He practiced reaching for the bright thing instead of the useful thing. He practiced the wail, the babble, the boneless trust of a body that had never once in its short life been betrayed by the world. It was acting, and it was exhausting, and underneath it Ethan's grown mind ran cold and clear and constant, like a river under ice. By noon he had learned to hate the high chair, the spoon, and his own soft, useless hands. By noon he had also learned that his mother sang while she cleaned, low and tuneless and happy, and that she touched the top of his head every time she passed him, without thinking, the way you touch something to be sure it is still there. In 37 years, he had forgotten that she did that. Ethan sat very still in his hated chair and let her hand pass over his hair again and again, and did not let his face do anything at all. In the late afternoon, a key turned in the lock, and a man came home, and Ethan's careful control broke into pieces. David Cole filled the doorway the way Ethan remembered him filling every doorway. A big, unhurried man in a canvas work coat dusted pale with sawdust, a thermos in one hand and a battered lunch tin in the other, smelling of cut pine and cold air, and the particular clean sweat of honest work. There was sawdust in the creases of his knuckles. There was a smile already starting at the corner of his mouth before he had even seen anyone, the smile of a man glad to be home. He had been dead for 37 years. He stood in the doorway alive and set his thermos down on the counter and said, "There's my 2 men. How were my 2 men today?" Susan said something back, something ordinary about the day, and her voice had a lightness in it that Ethan had never once heard in the worn woman of his memory. David crossed the room in 3 strides and bent over the high chair, and his big sawdust-creased hand came down and engulfed the whole top of Ethan's small head, warm and rough and impossibly gentle. "Hey, bud," he said. "You give your mom a hard time today." Ethan looked up into his father's living face. He had spent 37 years trying to remember it exactly and failing. The photographs had faded. The voice had gone first, then the particular way the eyes crinkled, until Dad had become less a person than a wound he carried, a shape cut out of him in 1999 that never grew back. And now the shape was here, leaning over him, smelling of pine, asking an idle question, completely and stupidly unaware that in 5 years a wet road and 4 seconds were going to take all of this away. Something rose up in Ethan's chest so huge and so fast that the small body could not contain it. His face crumpled. His eyes flooded. And he did the only thing the body knew how to do with a feeling that large. He reached up with both fat, shaking arms toward his father and burst into tears. "Whoa, hey, hey." David scooped him up out of the chair at once, alarmed and tender, settling the small, weeping body against his chest, against the canvas coat that smelled of the whole lost world. "Hey now. What's all this? Bad day, huh?" "Yeah. Some days are like that, bud. Some days are just like that." He walked the room with him, slow, swaying, one enormous hand spread flat and warm across Ethan's back. "I got you," he murmured into the small dark hair. "I got you. Dad's got you." No, Ethan thought, weeping into his father's shoulder with a grown man's grief inside a 2-year-old's tears. "I've got you. This time I've got you." That night, set down once more behind the white bars of the crib, Ethan stopped crying and started counting. The wild grief had burned through him and left something harder behind, the way a fire leaves iron. He understood now what he had been given. He did not understand why. He set the why down where he could not see it with all the other impossible things, but he understood the shape of the gift, and the shape of the gift was this: time and the knowledge of how to spend it. He knew the years to come. He knew near enough the day his father would die. He knew which of the 1,000 ordinary choices that built a life had been the ones that mattered, and he was the only living person who did. But he was 2 years old. He could not walk well. He could not speak. He could not be believed, could not be obeyed, could not so much as cross a room without a hand to steady him. His one and only weapon was the most useless thing in the world, a child who knew the future and could tell no one. So be it. He would not waste it being wrong. He would not burn his 5 years frightening doctors and alarming neighbors and being whisked off for tests. He would be patient. He would be clever, but only so clever as a bright little boy was allowed to be, never 1 inch past it. He would grow up small and ordinary in the light, and underneath the ice he would run cold and constant toward a single date. And when 1999 came, he would be ready, in whatever way a child could be ready, to stand between his father and that wet and waiting road. It was almost nothing. It was a boy against the weight of the whole world. Ethan Cole lay in the dark, 2 years old, and began, very quietly, to count the days.